Hi, good day. Today is the 21st of June, and I would just like to have a discussion about the Road Accident Fund. Um, this is my personal experience with them. Um, my mother was in an accident in 2014, and she was very seriously hurt, and she became a spastic tetraplegic. She was taken to Steve Biko Hospital after the accident, where I was told that she broke her neck and she had serious other injuries. And so she was in Steve Biko for a very long time. After the first week, they moved her from high care to the normal ward. And the doctor there was a bit of a racist. So when she broke her neck, she was flat on her back. She couldn't eat. She couldn't drink, so they couldn't do an operation. So she had to stay flat on her back with the neck brace on. So when she was in the ward, we didn't see them giving her any food, water, or any. She didn't have a drip on. They put in a feeding base in through the nose, but there was no connection of food. So for 7 days and nights, we complained with the doctor, two other doctors as well in the orthopedic ward, as well as the nurse that was in charge there. But they told us that they feed her at night, or she's eating by herself, all sorts of stuff, except no food. So at day 7, they phoned me to tell me that my mother was actually dying and that I had to come to hospital quickly. So I was rushed to hospital 6 o'clock in the morning. She was put into a private room. It looked terrible, and she was really dying. So a lot of the family showed up to come and pay respect and so forth. Then at about 2 o'clock, a professor came around with a lot of doctors, and they said that my mother basically was left to die. She was starved to death by this doctor and by the ward, and they didn't give her food, and that is why she's in the condition that she's in. So they then took over and they moved her to the ICU, where they then basically did a proper examination of her. They found that she had a huge hole at the back of her head that was open to her skull, and she had some dead sores at the back as well. And then they put her on in a coma, a medical coma, and they ventilated her to keep her alive. So the next day, from there onwards, was really a terrible situation for all of us. She had a heart attack in the ICU in front of us. Then she had a blood clot through her lung. She also had a lot of viruses, various viruses. And then she also had a stroke. And on top of that, they gave her medicine that basically kept her in a coma. So I watched my mother die in Steve Biko 5 times. And my brother had to fly from Houston sectors 3 times that they let him know that she was passing away. So in total, we were in the ICU for 93 days. Now, at the end, they moved her into a glass room, and they told me that she was not going to survive. She was not going to leave the hospital alive. And that was the same thing they told me the first day. They told me that she was too old and that she was going to die in the hospital and she was not going to leave ever. So then, thank God, a doctor that I never thanked, he called a specialist, and the specialist said, listen, you're giving this lady medication that she's highly allergic to. You have to stop it immediately. So they stopped the medication because she couldn't get off the ventilator. She couldn't open her eyes. She was as stiff as a board. And like I said, they expected her to die any moment. So they stopped the medication, and the next moment when I came to the hospital, we were always near. We stayed there a lot of days. We didn't go home, and we stayed there. And when I entered the hospital, the nurse was so excited, and she said, "You know, your mother's opened her eyes." So the next day, after they stopped the medication, she could be taken off the life support. Then they moved her to the high care, and then in about, I would say, about 4 days, the same doctors that was in the ICU also worked in the high care. They did the same thing. They gave her the same medication, and she went into the same state, into shock and into coma state. So then I got very angry, and I said to them, "Listen, I'm removing my mother from this hospital because you're seriously working towards letting her die." And this was, like I said, 93 days in ICU. So I told them that I'm removing her the Friday. By 10 o'clock, I'm bringing a special ambulance, and I'm moving her out of the hospital with all the pipes and everything. So then I moved her home, and I started to care for her myself. I had help from sisters and a doctor, our home doctor, and some members of the community. They came to help me. But it was a huge task because now suddenly I was responsible for it. But the part where the road accident fund came in was while my mother was in the ICU, various lawyers started to phone me, and then the road accident themselves phoned me. And the guy said to me, "Listen, I would like to meet you at the hospital. You need to sign some documents." And I said to him, "Well, what documents?" And he said, "No, we want you to sign a final settlement for your mother of 75,000 Rand for the accident." Now, I had a look at the medical costs just the previous day, and it was already on 1.1 million Rand for my mother's stay in the hospital. 1.1 million in the government hospital. So I said to him, "Sorry, I'm not signing any documentation," and I didn't know anything about the road accident fund, so I needed to find out first. So the medical aid sent us then a lawyer, and he came through to see me, I think twice, and he was very keen to take the case. And then it was moved from there onwards. He explained to us that he will fight for my mother, and that the hospital was also at fault, and that they will do their best for my mom. So that was the first time that I got to meet to do with the road accident fund. So a while later, I had to start taking my mother to various medical experts who had to do legal medical reports on her to say what is the condition, what is the damage, and everything like that. And it was about 18 various people, various professionals that I had to take her to. And that cost about 250,000 Rand. And these reports are for the road accident fund case. Now, at the end of the day, she had the accident in 2014, and the court case, what they call a court case, was in 2017, November. But it's actually just two lawyers meeting in the passage. They came to an agreement, and then later on, a judge signed it. So the agreement was a far lower amount that was actually supposed to be given to my mother for a condition. So I was very upset about that. But then in January, they gave us a court order, and they also gave us the undertaking. Now, the undertaking is also a court-approved document. Is the undertaking from the Road Accident Fund that they must pay her her medical expenses from there onwards, for everything that she needs because of the accident for the rest of her life. So the court awarded her 90%. So, with other words, the Road Accident Fund had to pay 90% of her medical expenses, all her care, everything. Okay. So she was supposed to have a day care, a night care, a relief staff member, and then also someone to help with the housework. That was what all the reports said. So after the undertaking was signed and given to us, nothing happened for almost another year. So I had to look after my mother full time for all this time. I had helped in the beginning from nurses and care workers that we had to pay. And then afterwards, I had to take my mother to a step down to get her off the trachea that she was having, but she was on full-time oxygen. And she also was on full-time medication because of the heart attack, the stroke, and everything like that. So when at last the road accident started to pay for stuff, they refused to pay for the oxygen. And my mother was on full-time oxygen. They refused to pay that. They refused to pay her medication. So they told me to take her to a specialist and for the specialist to give them a report on all the stuff that I was asking for my mother. So now I had to take my tetraplegic mother that can't do anything in a vehicle to another specialist after 18 specialists already gave them a report that cost 250,000 rand. So they can't open any of those reports, 18 of them, they can't open it. It costs, like I said, 250,000 rand. Now I must take my mother to another doctor so that that doctor can say exactly the same thing. So the doctor said and explained to them in his report, item for item, medication for medication, what it was for, the reason for it, etc., and that she needed oxygen. She needed oxygen also to travel because she was doing therapy and all that kind of stuff. And also we tried to give her a bit of her life back by taking her to church and meet with family and stuff like that. So she needed oxygen to go out as well. And the and the Road Accident Fund, after all of that, still refused everything. No oxygen, no medication, no operations. They refused to pay for any adjustments to our house. Now, I had to get my mother, who's a tetraplegic. It means that she can't use her legs or her arms. She can't walk. She can't eat by herself. I have to get her up the stairs into the house by myself. They refused to pay for a ramp. They refused to do any adjustments in the house. And they gave us a wheelchair that we can't get into a car. It was a prescription wheelchair, yes, actually 2 wheelchairs, but it's not foldable and it can't get into a car. So they also refused to give us a car because according to law, they need to be transported in special vehicles where they are strapped down in their wheelchairs and to take them in and out like that. But they refused that. So they refused to pay any of those costs. And so the legal fees for us to get the first court order, which was in November 2017, cost 220,000 rand. Now, so now we have a court order, we have an undertaking, but the road accident fund is refusing to pay these costs. Okay, so they then told me to go back to court and get another court order. Why I don't know, because we already have a court order that costs 220,000 rand. So why waste money and time to get new court orders if there's already an existing one that we paid for? So they basically just refused everything. So then in 2022, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes because I can't remember everything. But in 2022, I was appointed, by the court as a trustee on my mother's trust, and Fed Group was the trust administrators. Now, lovely people, they are amazing. They do an amazing job. So I work there with Sandra, and Sandra tried to help me as best as she could. But because I worked with my mother, the court felt that I should be a trustee as well. So we tried to get everything from the road accident fund, but we just got stonewalled all the time. So they also refused to pay, or there was a notice given to the road accident fund that they must pay the past medical expenses for caregivers up until the court appearance that was in 2017. So that was about 4 years of salaries that needed to be paid. So there was a head office email that went out to say that this must be paid, as well as other costs, and it was still an open a court order where they were still waiting for other additional information to come in for the road accident fund to be paid. So that they refused to pay that. So then Sandra approached the lawyers and asked them to please help us with a court order. And it was a long process, and once again, a very expensive process. But at last, we obtained, got a court order on the 21st of February, 2022. Now, that's a long time. That's has passed already. So the road accident fund didn't attend the court to assist with this court order. They didn't object. So when they received it, they didn't notify us. The law or the agreement is that the road accident fund will pay within 180 days. Our undertaking actually said 18 days. They must pay within 18 days. So they didn't pay us the court order. They wouldn't take our phone calls. They wouldn't answer our emails. So I went back to the lawyer and I asked him, can he please give me a writ of execution so that we can force the road accident fund to pay? The lawyer refused to do so, and the reason also being that the road accident fund, specifically the CEO, Letsoalo, he don't like people taking out writ of executions against the road accident fund. And when people do that, or when lawyers do that, he then blacklists them. And if they are blacklisted, it means that they are not getting paid. Their clients or their victims are not getting paid because he see it as a personal attack. And he played God in that way by not adhering to the court orders. Now, these are all legal documentation. My mother became a tetraplegic from totally 100% normal to a tetraplegic. There's nothing like we are trying to steal from the road accident fund or whatever. This is all legal in the sense that, I mean, we have 18 reports from specialists. There's a court order. Everything is there. All the documentation from the hospitals are there. But you're getting treated like you're a criminal. So they refuse to help me. Other lawyers refuse to help me also with the same problem where they say that Collins blacklists them if they take out writs of executions. And then it basically has an effect on all their victims that they are representing. So I had to go to the court myself and ask for a writ of execution. The court gave me one for the 2 officers in Pretoria. I took it to the sheriff, both sheriffs. They took it to the road accident fund, and then nothing happened afterwards. They asked me to give them an instruction that they like to work with lawyers. Sheriffs like to work with lawyers. They do not like to work with public. So then I received a notice that the road accident fund has basically approached the court and asked them to set the execution aside. And in November, so we had to go to court. So I had to get an advocate again and a lawyer, and then they agreed to basically negotiate between them without me, without my approval. So they decided that they are going to negotiate about this. Now, there's nothing to negotiate because the court already granted 90% of all my mother's medical costs. Now, the road accident fund wants to negotiate to pay a very small percentage of whatever they own. Okay. So they drag this out for a year. It cost a lot of lawyers' funds, and it cost a lot of funds for the advocate. And they wasted time. They wanted this, and then they wanted that, and then they don't want the paperwork like this, and then they don't want the paperwork like that, and they never come back to you. So it's just a waste of time. That's all they do. They stall, and they want to cost you as much money as they can so that you cannot take action against them. So then I gave the lawyers instruction. I said, we're done now. We're going to court. We're not negotiating anymore. And I said this to them from the beginning. We're not negotiating, and they just went there and negotiated for a year long, wasting time and wasting money, lots of money, because people, for some other reason, think that people that's in accidents, they are millionaires. They have all this cash in the bank that they can just pop out at any time and pay expensive lawyers and advocates left, right, and center. And the most of us is just normal South Africans. We don't have that money in the bank. In any case, so we went to court in November, a year later, knowing that the court is going to throw it out. So, but the lawyers still have to do the work, and the advocates still have to do the work, and it still costs a lot of money, over 100,000 rand, to go to court so that the judge can just basically say, sorry, the auction is going ahead the next day, and the road accident fund is responsible for the legal fees. Just like with the first court order, the road accident fund is responsible for the legal fees. But till today, we haven't received 1 cent legal fees from the road accident fund, not 1 single cent. Okay, so the next day is the auction. So the auction worked like this. The Pretoria East sheriff, I think it's a Mrs. Now, she basically went to the road accident fund, and the road accident fund said, listen, this is now auction. They ask you to advertise for this auction for the public to come. It costs 5,000 Rand to advertise, but they don't allow the public. Okay? So the sheriff basically sell it back, all the assets, to the road accident fund. Not to the public, like they say, not like advertised. So I don't know why they expect you to pay 5,000 Rand for advertisement if the public is not allowed. And then she sell it back to the road accident fund, and the road accident fund pay zero, not 1 cent. Not 1 cent. So this is an illegal transaction. An illegal transaction between the sheriff and the road accident fund. Just yesterday, it cost me a hell of a lot of money for the advocate and for the lawyers to be in court so that the judge can throw it out and say the auction must go ahead. And this sheriff come and she sold it to the road accident fund, and they pay her nothing, not a cent. And that is the last help I received from her. So the writ of execution is with her. The writ of execution is with Fani now at Centurion, the sheriff there, and he's not doing anything. The sheriff in Pretoria West doing nothing. Pretoria East, I'm sorry, doing nothing. So it is basically as if they have an agreement with the road accident fund to protect them, because nothing is happening. You can get the order, but you cannot get it executed. They won't help you. So what their function is, no one knows, because they're not doing anything. So then, to just talk about the administration as well of the road accident fund. The road accident fund, while we work with him, and while I worked with him as a trustee, they do not send you any notices. Never. Not one. If you compare to, for instance, Discovery or any of the other medical aids, they send you SMSs and notifications for your claims that you've handed in and for payments that they've made. The road accident fund sends you absolutely nothing. Now, Fed Group work with, I think they said to me, about 500 or 600 cases. They represent about 500 victims. They're appointed by a court to do so, and they administrate all these trusts. They have never in their lives received a statement from the road accident fund on any of the victims. So say, for instance, I sent in 10 invoices this month for nappies and for food and for special needs for my mother, medication, whatever. I send it into the road accident fund. sometimes the road accident fund don't pay you for a year. Or they might decide 3 months later they are now going to pay something. But when they make a payment to the trust, they don't tell you what the payment is for. There's no reference. There's absolutely nothing. So the reason why they do this is so that they can cheat claimants. They can cheat the victims out of the funds because you don't know what you're getting paid for. There's no statement. The admin is so non-existing and so bad that it is laughable. So people don't know what amounts they've claimed, and they do not know what amounts they have been paid for, because there is no trace of paper trace that is sent to you by the Road Accident Fund. So basically what I'm telling you is that they are stealing from victims. The Road Accident Fund is stealing from victims. That is just the bottom line. Now, in 2024, the CEO was in front of Parliament, and he was explaining to Parliament that he has saved 1.5 billion rand on medical costs. He, as the Road Accident Fund in his board, have saved 1.5 billion rand on medical costs. Now, how do you save on medical costs? Medical cost, if I understand it correctly, is your monthly payment for victims that is getting medicine for that month, that is getting nappies, that is getting care, that is getting all their medical expenses that is have to get paid under the undertaking that is agreed by and signed off by the court. So that is the medical expense that I understand. Now, if you save 1.5 billion rand on medical costs, it means that the Road Accident Fund is not paying the undertakings. Just like with my mother, they do not pay for the oxygen, they do not pay for the medication, they do not pay for therapy, they do not pay for transport, they do not pay for adjustments, they do not pay for caregiver salaries. So basically, they are stealing the court orders that is agreed to and that was issued, an undertaking. They are stealing those funds from all these victims, and the victims that has already been in the process for a very long time, they suddenly stopped paying these people. So most of the people cannot fight back. And the reason why, I will tell you, the reason why people cannot fight back and why the Road Accident Fund, and specifically Collins, love the normal public is because the normal public cannot pay legal fees. We cannot afford it. So what he's doing is, if I go to my lawyer and I ask him to help me, he's going to say to me, I want 120,000 rand. 120 to 150,000 rand before I do anything. So I have to put down to my lawyer 120 to 150,000 rand to get something from the Road Accident Fund that is a court order already. So then when the court order is issued, they refuse to pay it. Now they run back to the court. Remember, this is our money. We pay, I think, R2.15 per liter levy on fuel. We, as the public, pay R2.15 per liter to the Road Accident Fund. So Collins used this money, and that he pay state-appointed lawyers to go to court and cost you money, but they know the court is going to throw it out. But the scheme is that they want you to lose your money so that you cannot keep up the fight against them for the legal process to get whatever they owe you. So they keep on doing that, and they keep on doing that until you have no money left, and they just don't pay you. That's how they work. That's how Collins work. That is the CEO. The CEO that is appointed, and the reason for the road accident fund and why it is there is to pay people, victims that was in serious accidents, to pay them and compensate them for the medical expenses and for the fact that they cannot work anymore and so forth. Now he, on the other hand, like the other side more, he like to take 10.7 billion rand. Yes, I repeat that, 10.7 billion rand, and he wasted on legal fees. He don't pay patients, he don't pay victims. No. He pay legal fees to fight victims so that they cannot claim. So he wastes 10.7 billion rands, he and his board, and he cannot pay and does not pay victims, especially victims that he has blacklisted. Now, my question as well is, you have a board, and on that board there is doctors. Now, these doctors doesn't even know that a G 94.2 or 82.4, sorry, 82.4 is a tetraplegic. I hope I'm right still. Is a tetraplegic. They don't know what is a tetraplegic. They do not understand or read the medical reports that you pay 250,000 rand for that say someone is dependent on oxygen and they must get oxygen. So what is the use of these people that sit on these boards and get huge amount of money, doctors that disapprove, deny oxygen for someone who must be on oxygen 24/7, who deny wheelchair access to a house, who deny medication, all the medication, deny all the operations. So this board is basically so stupid that they do not understand certain medical terms. They just deny. So basically, where must I now get an oxygen machine for my mother? Where must I get an oxygen machine that the court said 90% of this cost must be paid by the road accident fund? And they just don't want to do it. They do not know and they do not understand and they don't care. And like I said, Colin would rather pay 10.7 billion rand on frivolous court cases than to pay victims. So that is basically how the work of Collins and the board is working within the road accident fund. Where do you complain? You cannot complain anywhere because the road accident fund has a complaint section, but it's like you're phoning the police to complain about the police. They're not going to do anything. It's the same with the road accident fund. There's nowhere you can complain. There's nowhere that you can go and ask for help. Nowhere. The only way you can work is through the legal system. So the legal system is the only one that benefit from the public because the public must pay them, whether they fail or not. And I'm not talking about the first, when they do the settlement, because on the settlement, they take 25% of the victim's money, the lawyers. They are sharks. They don't care about you. They take their 25%. And thereafter, you must put down money first before they do anything. Whether they lose or whether they win, you get the court order, yes, but you can't do anything with the court order. So that is basically how this system works, where Collins drain the public from funds by playing a legal game, by using the court to drain the funds from the victims so that they cannot take the process further. Why is there not an ombudsman? Why must it cost the public funds to claim against the road accident fund? Now, I understand that the public don't want to, because I've almost stepped into that same problem where they offered me 75,000 Rand. Is that fair? Is that an honest offer? It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like it's an offer that can be changed easily on paper so that someone can claim 1 million or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on what they put in front of the 75. So the Road Accident Fund is funded by the public. I saw an outcome of a judge the other day where the judge said that basically the Road Accident Fund is funded by the government, and that's not true. The government is not funding the Road Accident Fund. The public is funding the Road Accident Fund. So Collins and the board are wasting the public's money. If your daughter, your husband, or your wife or children is in an accident, and we do not sort this out as the public, you are going to end up with almost nothing, because they're stealing the money left, right, and center. They're misusing it and they're abusing it. The lawyers are draining the system as well. I'm not saying all lawyers, because it's like all doctors. You get good doctors and you get bad doctors. It's the same with lawyers. You get good lawyers and you get bad lawyers. But unfortunately, the legal system is draining a lot of the funds out of the Road Accidents Fund. And Collins is damaging the Road Accident Fund. Now, he's complaining about lawyers that is dishonest and that is scalums. But who's paying these lawyers? Lawyers cannot pay themselves. They put in a claim to the Road Accident Fund, and then the Road Accident Fund must approve or disapprove or get the money from the Treasury. Because they're hiding their money in the Treasury these days, they do not have it in the bank anymore, because there was too many writs of executions against the bank accounts. So Collins and the Road Accident Fund is totally incompetent, and that is why lawyers that is dishonest is also getting double payments, because the Road Accident Fund is allowing it. The Road Accident Fund is approving it. The lawyers are not approving it. Yes, they are scalums, but the Road Accident Fund is allowing it to happen. If I put in a claim, they fight me, they take me to court, they do anything to stop, to pay the claim, but they have no problem paying dishonest lawyers. No problem whatsoever. So Collins always have an excuse. You'll see him on the news telling us that there's no money, that the Road Accident Fund is this and that and the next thing, like every year. And then in the background, the radio will say, the Road Accident Fund is encouraging you to claim directly from them. So that they're paying an advertising agency millions but they're telling us that there's no money. So he has so many double standards. The other thing as well is he's told the parliament as well as court, a bench of judges, that he's paying people within 120 days. Everything has improved and he's paying within 120 days. Now, we haven't received salaries for care workers since 2014. That is 3,440 days or something like that. He haven't paid salaries in years, but he is receiving a salary every month. He is receiving a bonus with his board every year. In 2019, they haven't paid 4 months. 3 staff members not getting paid 4 months in 2019. In 2020, 3 staff members not paid 1 cent. So a total of 14 months in 2019 and 2020 not paid. Not a single cent. 3 staff members. A day shift, a night shift, and a relief shift. And a domestic worker, not paid. 2014, not paid. 2015, whole year, not paid. Day or night, or relief staff, or anything. 2015. 2016, nothing, not a cent. 2017, not a cent. 2018, he paid 2 months. So for all of these years, people had to work for 3 staff members, care workers, day shift, night shift, because it's 24-hour care. My mother is never to be left alone. And there must be a domestic worker as well. So 4 staff members not paid. 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. 2019, like I said, 4 months not paid. 2020, no payment the whole year. So now we have a court order, but they refuse to pay. Because Collins remove you, there is a list that they call the RNYP list. Now this is set up in the court. Apparently I have a look at this list every now and again, but you can send your claim, your order, your interest, your lawyer's fees, everything there, and they keep removing you from the list because you're blacklisted. Collins blacklisted me because I have taken out a writ of execution against the Road Accident Fund. So everything is legal. Legal court orders, legal writ of executions, all the paperwork sent in, years. And he's just removing it and not paying it. But when you go to Parliament, he said 120 days. He's paying everyone within 120 days. All the court orders, everything is getting paid within 120 days. Where's the list of the people he's not paying because he blacklisted them? Where is the list that he's giving to the court to say that he's not paying these people because he have blacklisted them? How do you not pay people salaries? How do you pay people not to take care of a victim, a seriously injured victim? We have a court order, and you, as a CEO and your board, reject paying salaries, reject paying medication, and even reject paying oxygen. You guys are scum to do that to someone who is dependent on oxygen, who is dependent on caregivers. There is a court order. You are working, you're appointed in an organization that is funded by the public. The public is paying you, not the government, the public. We as the public are paying you. We are not all scallums. So you have a responsibility and you need to be fired for it because you are failing your legal obligations. You are miserably failing your legal obligations towards the public who are victims of seriously motor vehicle accidents. So I'm asking anyone that sees this video to please send it on, to share it with as many people as you can, please, because remember, it might be your child, it might be your mother, it might be your husband or wife that you are also fighting for. I'm fighting for my mother, who's already passed. And I'm fighting for someone else's mother that is also not getting her medical equipment, her medical paid care workers, whatever. So please help us fight this because you are paying for other victims. And I want to thank you for the fact that you contribute towards the fuel levy and that there's certain things that you could pay and help me pay for my mother that helped her. So, and we can do it, and you are doing it for other people as well, for other patients as well, who are not criminals, who have seriously been injured innocently by someone in an accident. So we are not all scallums, like I said, and I'm asking you, please send this on so that we can spread the word and so that we can make a change within the Road Accident Fund and so that we can replace people that drain the funds that's coming from our pockets. 10.7 billion rand is a hell of a lot of money that could pay a lot of people's medical expenses. My name is Stefan de Villiers. I looked after my mother for a long time, since 2014, day and night, with a team later on. I had to work for a long time by myself. My mother didn't deserve the accident, but it happened. And she was Annie de Villiers, and we lived in Pretoria. And what happened in Steve Baker should also not have happened. To leave someone to die and leave them without food is unacceptable. So I hope that you would share this message, and I hope that you will also respond and also tell your story, because otherwise we won't hear your voice. I thank you. Good night.